He saved her from flunking out of high school. Gave her a second chance when no one else would. Years later, she stood over him on the operating table, holding his life in her hands. But what happened between those two moments will shock you. Please subscribe to this channel. This one is different. This one hits deep. Millers Creek, Alabama, the kind of town where everyone waves at each other. The local diner still serves peach cobbler from scratch, and rumors spread faster than wildfires. At the heart of it all was Mr. Julian Carter, the town's beloved high school literature teacher. Quiet, kind, and a little old-fashioned, Julian believed in redemption more than punishment. He never married, never had kids of his own, but he mentored half the town's children like they were his. And then, there was Raina Holt, 17. Angry. Alone. A product of a broken home and a system that had already written her off. Everyone had given up on her. Everyone, except Julian. He didn't just let her retake an exam. He tutored her after school. Bought her books. Gave her rides home on rainy days. Gave her hope. She vanished right after graduation. No one heard from her again. Until 15 years later, when she returned with a new name, a medical degree, and a scalpel. It started with a call no one expected. Julian, now 62, was rushed to Millers Creek General Hospital after collapsing in his garden. The cause? Unknown. Symptoms? Strange. Doctors were baffled. Enter Dr. Raina Holtman, the new trauma specialist flown in from Atlanta. No one connected her to Raina Holt, not at first. But she knew. And so did Julian. He recognized her the second she walked in. She didn't smile. Didn't flinch. Just said, "You gave me a second chance once. It's time I return the favor." She performed the emergency surgery herself. She saved his life. But 2 weeks later, Julian Carter went missing. Sheriff B. Murdoch didn't trust easy. But she knew Julian. Knew he wouldn't just disappear. They searched his house. Nothing disturbed. His car was still parked. His wallet untouched. The only clue? A torn photo of a young girl, half burnt in the fireplace. And a note written in perfect cursive. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. The hospital logs confirmed it. Dr. Raina Holtman had visited him every single day post-surgery. Sometimes staying for hours, long after visiting hours ended. But when questioned, she claimed innocence. "I saved his life," she said, her eyes cold. "Why would I take it away?" Then the town started whispering. About Julian's special treatment of students. About how Raina wasn't the only girl he tutored. About the late nights in his classroom. Sheriff B. wasn't sure what to believe. Julian had always been kind, but people can hide monsters behind smiles. Then came the twist no one saw coming. A hidden diary found behind a loose brick in Julian's classroom wall, one he'd kept for 20 years. Every page was about Raina. About her brilliance. Her pain. Her anger. Her secrets. One entry read, "She's not angry at the world. She's angry at the past. And I think I'm part of it." Raina grew up abused. Neglected. Silenced. Julian had tried to save her, but some wounds don't heal. Some scars fester quietly, waiting for their moment to rise. Did she save him, just to destroy him later? Or did she uncover something he was trying to hide? And what about Julian? Was he truly the savior, or was he finally facing judgment? Even Sheriff B. wasn't sure anymore. 3 weeks after his disappearance, a body was found in the woods. Wrapped in plastic. Buried deep. But it wasn't Julian. It was someone else from Raina's past. Someone no one expected. And as for Julian? Well, the last person who might have seen him alive was his former student, turned doctor, turned something else entirely. The body found in the woods wasn't Julian Carter. It was male, mid-40s, cause of death, blunt force trauma. But what really stunned Sheriff B. Murdoch was the identity. Thomas Tommy Ray Holt, Raina's estranged stepfather. A name buried deep in her sealed juvenile records. A man she'd once accused of unspeakable things. Charges were dropped. Evidence was inconclusive. And the town had forgotten him. But now he was back. Or rather, his body was buried just miles from where Julian had last been seen alive. Sheriff B. now had more questions than answers. She revisited Dr. Raina Holtman, formerly Raina Holt. B. laid out the evidence, calm but sharp. "We found your stepfather. Dead. Beaten. Buried. Care to explain how he got here?" Raina stared at her in eerie silence. Then finally said, "He wasn't supposed to be here. He followed me." Then she added, "I didn't kill him. But I'm glad he's gone." B. left that room unsettled. Later she pulled Raina's original files. heavily redacted. But a few lines stood out. Subject exhibits extreme dissociation from traumatic events. Highly intelligent. Potential for genius-level cognition. But emotionally unpredictable. Searching Julian's home again, Bee found something strange. Behind a bookshelf, a locked floor safe. The key. Hidden in the hollow of a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, Julian's favorite novel. Inside the safe were several mini-DV tapes and a collection of letters. The tapes were labeled with years, 2003, 2004, and 2005. Raina's graduation year. Bee played one. It was Julian, sitting at his desk, speaking directly to the camera. If anything happens to me, it's because I didn't listen. I should have reported him, but I thought protecting her meant keeping it quiet. I never touched her, but I knew what he did. I was scared, cowardly, maybe guilty by silence. Bea's heart dropped. The tapes revealed a side of Julian no one had seen, guilt-ridden, tormented, desperately trying to protect Raina, while hiding the truth about her abuser. The town was splitting down the middle. Some still defended Julian, insisting he was a hero, a protector, a martyr even. Others started whispering again, was he complicit? Had he really done everything he could to save Raina? Or did he protect his reputation more than her? And Raina? She remained silent, working her shifts at the hospital, saving lives, while being investigated for a murder and a possible second disappearance. A local reporter leaked the tapes. Suddenly, Raina was a symbol of vengeance, of trauma, of justice, depending on who you asked. Then came the real shocker. Julian's bank account was accessed. Not once, but 3 times in the last month. Surveillance footage from the ATM showed a cloaked figure, face hidden. But the build, the mannerisms, it wasn't Raina. It was a woman, but older, taller, limp in the right leg. Bee cross-checked hospital logs. A name popped up. Joanna Ray, Tommy's ex-wife. Raina's biological mother. Long thought dead. Or disappeared. But she checked in under an alias, just days before Julian vanished. Sheriff Bee now had a new suspect. A woman with motive, revenge, shame, buried secrets. A woman connected to both the murder victim and the missing teacher. And a woman possibly working behind the scenes to keep Raina quiet, or destroy her completely. But before Bee could bring her in for questioning, Joanna vanished, leaving behind a note burned at the edges found in Raina's mailbox. You were never meant to survive. Neither of you were. Joanna Ray had vanished. Again. But the note she left behind haunted Raina. You were never meant to survive. Neither of you were. Sheriff Bee put out an APB. Meanwhile, investigators recovered a burned phone near Raina's mailbox. After weeks of decryption, they found one intact voice message. He wanted to go to the police. I told him I'd stop her. He didn't listen. So I stopped him instead. It was unmistakably Joanna's voice. Raina broke down in Sheriff B's office when she heard it. She was supposed to be dead. I used to pray for that as a child, and when she disappeared, I thought maybe God had listened. Then came the anonymous tip. A hiker reported strange lights and screams from an old hunter's cabin deep in Tall Pine Ridge. Sheriff B and her team arrived just after dawn. Inside, they found Julian Carter. Alive. Barely. Beaten. Starved. But alive. Tied to a chair. Left to die. And beside him? A blood-stained scarf. Joanna's. He was rushed to the hospital. And guess who was on shift? Dr. Raina Holtman. When Julian opened his eyes, the first person he saw was the student he had once saved. Days later, Julian whispered everything to Bee. Joanna had shown up weeks before. Manipulative. Desperate. Convinced Raina had told him something. Something Joanna didn't want the world to know. Julian had threatened to go to the authorities. So she lured him to the woods, drugged him and held him captive, trying to get him to confess to crimes he hadn't committed, all while hiding her own. She wanted to rewrite the past, Julian said. But I knew the truth. I knew what Raina had lived through. I couldn't let her silence that. Joanna's body was found a week later, downriver, apparent suicide. A final escape from justice. The town of Millers Creek changed after that. The school where Julian once taught was renamed Holtman Carter Learning Center, honoring both survivor and protector. Raina left the hospital for 6 months. When she returned, she opened a trauma clinic for survivors of childhood abuse, free of charge. She and Julian now speak at conferences together. Quietly. Not for fame, but for healing. Julian never returned to teaching. But every morning he writes letters to his former students, reminding them that second chances are real. And just when the story seemed over, Sheriff B received an envelope. No return address. No fingerprints. Inside, one photo. Young Raina tied to a chair. Behind her, an open doorway. Standing in the shadows, someone familiar. Not Joanna. Not Tommy. But another figure they thought was long gone. A former teacher. And beneath the photo, a single line. You only saw one side of the story. What happens when the savior isn't as innocent as he seems? That's a story for another time. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please subscribe. More stories like this are coming. And trust me, some truths aren't ready to be buried.